Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Nick Shear, and this is Mind Force, a podcast sponsored by the three L's: love, life, and learning. Today we have a first for the show. Today's episode is round two with a returning guest from episode 25 to 111. What a
Nice.
wild ride it's been. This time, though, we're talking about transforming the global narrative around mental health. We're exploring the surprising lessons cats can teach us about life, presence, and authenticity. And we're diving into what it means to find and express your truest voice. At a quick glance, these topics might seem unrelated. By the end of this conversation, I think you'll see they're deeply connected. This conversation is about healing without losing your humanity. Well, Fred, welcome back to the show. Take a moment to say hello.
Well, thank you, Nate. What an honor. I didn't realize I was somehow a first returning guest. It's so cool to be back again on the other side of whatever journey has taken place since episode 25. I feel just totally privileged and humbled. And so I'm eager to see or hear or be with whatever discussion we take on together.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. My scripts are different. The structure is different. You just live and learn as you go
Dude, you
along.
live in a different country. You're
I
like,
live
you're in a different country this time than where we met the first time.
Yeah, I think the first one is in Florida, now in the United Kingdom. Just kind of go wherever the government tells me to go. So,
There
well,
you go.
Fred, since our last conversation, what's been capturing your attention the most?
Well, for sure, the thing that's been capturing my attention the most is the completion of my third book. And my third book isn't just a book. It's actually a memoir. It's actually a very thick memoir. It's a memoir that goes not thick in size, thick in discovery. It's a memory that goes back into every single thing that I can remember about my life unfolding since the very day I was born moving forward. And I created it with love and courage and went down deep into all sorts of rabbit holes and all sorts of sinkholes and all sorts of beautiful gold mines. And I did so with the help of Claude Code. And so really actually getting it to a space where I was writing every word. People were concerned, is Claude like writing for me? No, the answer is absolutely no, absolutely positively not. Am I using Claude Code to write? It's like saying, is the pen writing for you? Yeah, the pen is right. Yeah, it's sort of. It's kind of, the pen is doing the writing. And it's Claude didn't write this thing. I wrote this thing, and it's freaking awesome. It's so, so good. And let me tell you the experience that is, I realized this morning, just moments ago, sitting in the living room with my wife, as I describe you this experience, you'll see how ridiculous it is. So I bring in the ideas, or some version of it sort of asks me to go deeper. I go deeper. I discover, I find the rocks. I find the things that are blocking me. I find the things I'm eager to explore. I find the things that I want to throw in that aren't pertinent, or the things that I throw in that I don't throw in that would have been pertinent. I find all those things, And my wife, who has been following me and has just eagle eyes since the very day that we met, she's just able to remember details about me that far exceed anything that I can remember. When she says it, it resonates, but it's like, oh, where the hell, how do you recall everything about my life? And she does. So she's a great resource and along with Claude, sort of like the three of us going so hard at this thing. So I wrote the whole thing. It's been spot checked hundreds of times. It's been proofed a few times. It's been edited professionally a few times. It's ready to go. Today it gets submitted for July 5th. It's called Welcome to Humanity, of course. Welcome to Humanity, a psychiatrist memoir and case against the mental health system. And it's written word for word with sheer honesty and beauty. How do I know? Because of the experience I've been holding out here for you. Here it is. The book was written by me and Claude with Alexandra watching. The book is word for word exactly what I wanted to say and is completely and totally as honest and real and Fred as I could make it.
That's awesome.
But here's the thing. Claude Code can create anything into full and honest audible. And I have worked with 11 labs, so I have a deep professional voice that is me. Like it says, it's not a rendition of me. When you do this special thing, it's actually, in fact, my voice being replicated. And so this book got served up to the Audible so that I'm reading this book out loud, some version of the audible version of the book, and I'm having the book read to me right now by me, for the man who wrote the book is reading me the story about me for the first time. I'm reading it like, sentence by sentence, piece by piece, and hearing little intricate details that maybe could be shifted. So in real time, I'm dropping that into the machine, and we're changing sentences just slightly, or ideas that were mega ideas, all at the same time while I am reading me my life story that I just wrote.
That's
Dude,
wild.
dude.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Who
so
knew?
I get to put my stamp of honesty, approval, and reality onto every single sentence because I was there. I'm the one, It's a very cool experience, of course.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, it's great to hear what you've been working on. And for listeners who may be hearing you for the first time, Fred, what mission continues to drive your work today?
What would you say? What was the question again, Nate?
For listeners who may be hearing you for the first time, what mission continues to drive you today?
Yeah, I think the biggest mission that's here today, I've been a psychiatrist for a lot of years, about 37 years, and I've been in the mental health field for 46 years, and I've really been a human for 68 years. And I've been watching and learning and being with this idea of life, love, and learning for every single day of my very life. And what's driving me today is the same thing in some ways that was driving me back when I was 2 in my playpen, which is just being of a positive influence and, making a difference in the world in a way that moves the needle forward or helps other people move the needle forward has always been what I've been interested in. And taking a mega look at what life has to offer and what is it that it is describes the human condition. So the primary line that I carry around is something like, there may be nothing wrong with you. There really may be nothing wrong with you at all. And that's a really good thing to take on, because when you start realizing there may be nothing wrong with you, that being sad, being miserable, being confused, being even in pain, suffering, being afraid, all of those things, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That means you're having an uncomfortable experience. That's all. It's part of the human condition. It's so okay. It's so okay. It's just on the smorgasbord of life. And so when we start getting that and realizing there's nothing wrong with us, there's no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. That's what Krishnamurti said. There's no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And we're living in a hazy society. It's we don't blame a log for burning in the fire, and that's what we're doing. We're living in a fire, and it's okay to have all sorts of emotions, feelings, concerns, regrets, and circumstances or experiences occur in this life. And when we can allow ourselves to have the compassion to have everything from soup to nuts, from miserable to beautiful, that puts us all on the same ground, because it does imply, indeed, of course, something that people have trouble metabolizing, which is there may be nothing wrong with him. There may be nothing wrong with her. There may be nothing wrong with them. There may be nothing wrong with anyone at all. And we're all finding our way to stumble, bumble, and tumble and fumble through this life that we're trying to understand without having a recipe book or an instruction manual.
Yeah, I definitely think it should be okay to not be okay. We've lived through COVID and economic disaster and wars and, geez, the amount of things that we've witnessed over these 50, 60 years. I mean, I know there was the Great Depression and other things before, but geez, we've lived through a whole lot of things. And sometimes that's just the way it is. You have the lows before you have the highs. Well, Fred, before we get too much deeper, I wanted to see if you had a question for me.
A question for Nate. Let's see. Yeah, Nate, what drives you forward? What have you been doing since I last talked to you?
Oh, shoot. So I moved to the United Kingdom. I've been out here for about 2 years now, third year of the show, I think. And mine is really just trying to take care of others, which I know is kind of cheesy. But I think that the way that we really get through this life is together in connection. Because I feel like that question comes up quite a bit on the show. Like, what's the biggest theme, or what's the biggest connection that you've seen throughout the different episodes, and now over 100? And I've seen a lot on journaling and meditating and quiet time, and those are absolutely important. But if you look at, I think the trend that kind of connects all of them is human connection. And there's so many things that are free. I think a lot of times we want this Herculean effort that's so big, and I feel like those are good too. But I feel like a lot of them are the smaller things, it's like pass the good forward. You pay for someone's coffee, you hold the door open, you smile at someone. It's those things that kind of pass things along. And like you said, we're all trying to get through this crazy life, for parents or whatever. There's no guidebooks. You're trying your best and, trying to suck a little bit less than the day before is always a good motto. But yeah, just really human connection and trying to get people. Because I've noticed that people silo really bad and they feel like, oh, I'm the only one. It's like 8 billion people in the world. You're not the only one. The chances of that are super unlikely. There's someone else. Find someone else. Whenever you find someone else that's in your situation, you always feel a whole lot better. So human connection is what I'm all about.
Awesome, man. Well, that's, of course, at the center of who I am. Human connection is at the heart of all healing. That's the essence. That's the motto. That's the main frame of Welcome to Humanity. And so we start really looking at the purpose of life is to indeed create human connection through conversation, creativity, communication, and, just collective compassion for each other, and really just have the opportunity to connect with another. And there is no stronger influence that causes instantaneous healing and curing than actually connecting with another person. No medicines, no diet, nothing. Nothing's ever been created that's more powerful than that.
Yeah, there's so many times I've heard on the show from guests, I thought I was the only one. No, not
No.
the only one. And instantly, like you said, feel better. Well, Fred,
You
your
know what's
first
interesting,
pillar.
though, is what they are not is they are not the first one to think that they're the only one. That's
Mm,
what's really important, is that every one of us thinks we're the only one. That's how we're built. That's what ego construction is all about. We think we're the only one, and that's just a common human influence as well. So it's not a matter of it not us being the only one. We, as a species, as a culture, as a unified race, called the human race, each and every one of us is pretty sure that we're different than everybody else. And so thinking that you're different than everybody else is actually a hallmark of being a human.
I think we got a lot more in common than we do apart. Well, we'll dive into the first pillar, Frank, and yours is transforming the narrative about mental health globally. So you spent many years, you said, I think 37 years, challenging conventional conversations around mental health. What part of the current narrative concerns you the most?
Concerns me the most. I think it's that people really think there's something wrong with them, and that somehow that if they get a label, if they get something that explains that that's somehow relief, and then going down the slide of the treatments that are associated with the label actually creates a worsening of the symptoms frequently enough and perpetuates the condition that the whole treatment was marketed to deal with. And so in some ways you come in with a concern that this might be permanent or this might be a condition. I may have a defective or a deficiency or a syndrome or an illness or a condition. And then you get the stamp of approval when you go into the so-called authority, who gives you a acronym, some sort of funny acronym of 3 or 4 alphabet soup letters, and now you walk around with that condition thinking that's who you are, and in that process begin treatments that actually perpetuate that thought line. So it's a rabbit hole of no return, and it's very difficult to get out of that hole once you're in it. So my biggest concern, what is my hope? My hope is that less people start thinking that they're like believing their thought that there's something wrong with them. Because when there's something wrong with you, what are you supposed to do? We've already been programmed. When there's something wrong with you, you go to a doctor. You go to a doctor. And so when you go to a doctor, you get confirmation that there's something wrong with you, and then the whole cascade begins. Psychiatry is the only field I know of, the only subspecialty I know of that the client, if you tell the client that they're okay, they actually get pissed. It's very interesting. That doesn't happen in other fields. But in psychiatry, people come in knowing that they have a condition. They just want to know what it is, even if they just feel it. So now they don't want to know if they have a condition, because no is not an answer they want to hear. So if I let you know that all of your discomfort is just part of being a normal human, you'd be like, why did I come to you? I'm like, well, because that's what you needed to hear. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Life is hard. Life is very hard. And I don't mean to diminish the pain. I hope that is really, sometimes this gets misinterpreted as perhaps I'm diminishing the pain or putting it back on you. No. What I'm saying is labeling the pain doesn't diminish it for real. All it is a pain that comes from a human condition, and it doesn't make it less painful. It's very painful. It's hard to be human, dude. It's hard to be a human. And let's just respect that. And when we respect that the pain is very real, but doesn't necessarily translate into a alphabet soup diagnosis, that allows us to start from a solid ground where connection becomes much more possible between each other.
So when you have people and you tell them it's part of the human condition, they're kind of frustrated that they didn't get the answer they wanted. How do you kind of redirect, or do they come back and kind
Yeah.
of realize that it was helpful, or what's kind of that outcome? What does that look like?
No, if people want to believe that there's something wrong with them and they don't want me to actually suggest to them that there isn't, then they can easily go next door to the next psychiatrist who'll be glad to give them a diagnosis. It's no problem at all. And if you really need to believe that there's something wrong with you, by all means, go ahead and do that. It's fine. It's no problem. It's not my job to convince you that there's not something wrong with you. It's okay. And so it isn't a matter of how do I deal with it. If we go the route that I'm going in this conversation, where we just kind of ease into the idea that maybe, just maybe, the first word of this whole thing is maybe. So maybe there's nothing wrong with you is a really important piece, because once we give that people, then I can decrease this drop into what you called frustration. It isn't a peak. There's no peak. There's no like, I thought there was something wrong with me and it didn't. Now you told me there isn't, and I'm frustrated and I'm going next door. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's quite okay if you really need to be confirmed that you have XYZ diagnosis and that you wouldn't even consider the possibility that you don't. Then that's okay. You're just being you and finding a way through through this life of ours. So if you need to know you have PTSD or ADHD or major depression or bipolar disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, or you're on the spectrum of blah, blah, blah. Okay, no problem. It's really no problem at all. This conversation is more aiming to the very real possibility that there's nothing wrong with you in the idea of the log burning in the fire, or in the idea of Krishnamurti's quote of, it's no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Then those things hold some water for me. And I'm willing to have the conversation with people who I otherwise would think are just like massively wrong. Like what about that person who thinks that about that? How did they get to that about that? Does that mean there's something wrong with them? No, it only means that through my very limited point of view, I think that person is outside of the circle that I call correct. That's all a diagnosis is you land outside of the circle of the diagnostician's comfort zone. That's all that is.
It's interesting how it like kind of confirms itself, like you were saying.
1,000,000%.
If they don't feel it, then they're just going to keep kind of going until they get the answer they want. And maybe they just need to be okay with realizing that there's a possibility that there's nothing wrong at all.
Well, I'm only nitpicking here, but you said maybe they need to be okay. They don't need to do anything. You can do this any way you want. If you want to be uncomfortable, if you want to label yourself as being less than a whole and complete human being and then walk through the world like that, if that's serving a purpose for you one way or another, even if it like, no, the doctor told me I got a condition. Okay. It truly is okay. More power to you. And I'm not kidding. I'm not here to argue that point. I'm here to tell you that it's possible that maybe, just maybe, there might be nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, that's good. Fred, what gives you hope that the global conversation is moving in a healthier direction?
Oh my goodness, what a wild question this is. A little bit slanted. What gives me hope in the positive direction of the future of like our existence? Is that what the question is? Something like this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me capture that one. So we've made it this far. That's what gives me hope.
Okay.
I don't have much bigger than that. Look, there are so many reasons to be concerned about an upcoming beyond imagination calamity of some nature, far beyond what you could ever have expected or explained, coming around the corner. That's really, really interesting, because that is also inherent in the human condition and has always existed as a concern, no matter whether it was the Stone Age or the Space Age. It doesn't really matter. Humans have always been concerned. That's why The Sky is Falling had such a following. We are so certain that the end of the universe is coming around the corner. And maybe it is, by the way. Look, this might be the last conversation either of us ever have. It could really happen. We both know that that's not outside the range of at least conceivable.
You got to be right at some point, right?
Yeah, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? You got that. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Okay, Fred, we'll transition to your second pillar, which is how cats are our best teachers. So, this
Oh
might
my
be the
God.
most unique pillar I've ever had on the show. What can cats teach us that humans often miss?
My goodness. So, in reading my book or having my book read to me this morning for chapter 18 and 19, as we buzz through this on our way to chapter 29, the launching phase of Desposito, Valentino, and Winston was discussed in these chapters just moments ago, and how we picked them up and why they're here. And not only that, Valentino was just lounged in the middle of the living room while we're listening, and Desposito was on the couch behind Alexandra, and then Winston was eating and whining inside of the back porch or the deck and the food, and so the three cats were kind of buzzing around the house. They were the three cats. How do they teach us? I honestly have never, ever, ever seen a creature that is more well equipped to handle life than a cat. They play, they rest, they forgive, they're beautiful, they know about love, they know about fun, they know about amusement, they take care of themselves, they keep themselves clean, they keep themselves ready, they're athletes beyond belief. Like, Winston can jump like he's not a special cat because most cats can do this. The other Desposito and Winston can both do this. Valentino not so much. Is jump onto the ledge on the back deck. It's about eight body heights. It's like us jumping onto a top of a building. And he lands on that thing perfectly without touching anything, and now is walking on the 2x4 that is the deck side. And it doesn't even look like anything until you realize what the hell just happened, or realizing that he has to jump over this to get to that. So what is it look, he's not teaching me how to be a gymnast. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is his capacity to be with all things and to be so insanely graceful and grateful and know how to rest, know how to play, know how to work, know how to create, just know how to interrelate with each other. Winston was gone 3 weeks ago. Winston left the house. I left the door open when I was taking out the garbage, and we come back, and all three are outside looking at me like, bro, we are so out of here. Have a good day. And they just like scatter. Like, okay, I guess that's how it's going to go today. And Valentino and Desposito eventually came back. Desposito's pretty soon. Valentino took a few hours, and they came back. They wanted, maybe they wanted cat litter, maybe they wanted food. I don't know, whatever they wanted. Winston didn't come back. And then he didn't come back in the afternoon. And then the night came, and he still didn't come back. And he's been gone one night once in the past. He didn't come back for a night. And I'm like, okay, I'm imagining he's got scared by a coyote, or maybe some gangster feral cat scared him or something. And then we'll see him in the morning because he'll be desperate. And morning comes and he's not back. I'm like, whoa, Winston, what the hell? And, and then we go the rest of the day, and Winston still doesn't come back. He's never gone this far. It's the rest of the day. I'm like, Winston, what, I guess you've been like, we start believing that it starts being only a couple explanations for why Winston hasn't returned. And, the calamity is certainly one of them. Like, he's roadkill, or he's coyote food, or whatever he is. And so we start thinking that, and we start thinking, well, we'll be okay with 2 cats. Everything will be fine, And then another night goes by, and Winston doesn't come back, and that night either. And I'm sitting right here, and I don't want to turn my desktop, but I could show you there's a window right here that looks out to the front of my house. The next morning, I'm on a podcast, just like this, and I look out the window, and here comes my freaking cat across the grass, like nothing's happening, like it's all good, just coming home, how's things? I'm interested in getting a can of food, and he comes scampering up to the front door, and we open it up. He comes in, he rests for a little bit, eats a little bit, and he's not any worse for the wear. And the dude is a dude. He's so good. He learned some skills. We wonder, what did he eat? Did he eat a bird? Like, what the hell happened? Where did you learn? And he's picked up some habits. So now, for instance, the last couple of days, we've watched Winston. Obviously litter is a thing with cat. Like, you gotta keep that thing clean, or at least respectable, or your cats will make you pay. And Winston decided to use the planter outside on the deck for his new litter box, because that's what he learned was he was in the hood. So he learned street urchin nonsense that that has him actually pawing into the planter and peeing in there instead of on the box, because they're so, they're so resilient and they're so innovative and they're so flexible and they're so beautiful, and they're just amazing. I love all three of them. I don't even know which one I love the most. Winston, sorta. So we always ask this question, which, because one, they have three different personalities, and like Valentino is more of a shaman, and Winston is more of a like a playful street cat, like sketchy, a little more sketchy. And Desposito's like a inspector general. He knows everything. When something moves just an inch, he'll come and he'll see that. And so, like Winston earned the name 34 early on not because of Herschel Walker, but because of, I think Charles Barkley might be 34 too. Anyways, is because when asked who is your favorite, it was 33, 33, 33. And that only adds up to 99, which means that there's 1% dangling out here. And who should it go? And it goes to Winston. So that's how he got to be 34.
Oh, that's awesome. A question I wanted to ask you earlier, as you were talking about the book, and since we're here talking about the cats and topics, like I have a lot of people I've heard, like, I'd love to write a book, but then they never do and they never start. And so you had these like pretty interesting topics and things like that. If someone was like, I'd like to write a book, like, do you start with an outline? You talked a little bit about Claude, but how do you get like the framework for the book to begin with?
Well, that's a really good question too. And so you gotta get something. This book here, this book of my memoirs, this book of 68 years taken down to as deep in the ground as it can be, and then flowing as a thread of one life, and how I got to be who I got to be, along with the manifesto about my concerns about mental health. Getting that all in is something that's been brewing for one way or another, I'd say for like 20 years. When I write my book, it's going to look like this, that's what it's been. So this is a culmination of a many-year intention or dream. How to write a basic book. I think that there's, or a book of something else that you're interested in, maybe your memoirs. I think people who are interested in what I'm saying, like the super excitement of having you actually read your book that you wrote about your life to you, is freaking cool, dude. It's so good. It's so good. It's like the most therapeutic thing I've ever done. I've been in psychoanalysis on the other side. I have laid on a couch 4 times a week for 9 years. I've done all that. And I've had a lot, obviously lots of influence inside of growth and development courses. I've been a growth and development junkie. I've been in, Landmark Education or Tony Robbins. I've been deep in all those things before. And I've really worked hard. Spiritual learnings, studying the Torah or studying the Dharma or the I Ching or human design or gene keys or, there's so many things out there that promise to move your world forward. And maybe they all did. And actually left me at a place where I can do this thing that I'm doing these days about looking at my life with my eyes open. This is like the coolest shit I've ever done.
So for advice for people, did you kind of jot down chapter 1, chapter 2? You said it took, over 20 years or whatnot, but how do you start that very basic?
I kind of deflected. Here's what I think I would do. Either if you're a journaler, just write. Just go ahead and write anything. You don't have to write about, I'm going to create a Dick and Jane novel, or I'm going to create a Buddhist instruction book, or I'm going to create a book about how to lose weight. You don't have to do all that. What you have to do is discover through courageous reality, let's say, like radical authenticity, like what your deal is. And it's a matter of rediscovering it. So it's already here. You don't have to look out there for your deal. But your deal is not out there. Your deal has been with you the whole time. It's still with you. It's not going anywhere. It's here. But we get really caught up in going out there to find out what our deal is. No, actually, your deal is right here. It's all good. It's been here the whole time. It hasn't left. It doesn't even know how to leave. It's right here. So when we actually find our true voice, or when we actually explore what that really is, we might get some ideas, and maybe with the help of the virtual machinery, that these days we do have that as a backup. And we feed that stuff into them. And in that possibility, they might ask really interesting questions. They being this LLMs or whatever you're working with, might ask you really important questions that lead you down some alleyways that you didn't even know you were interested in or could write about. Where are you an expert, or where are you a curious inspiration, or what is it that is floating your boat, or what is it that you can speak to that people would be moved by? Or maybe you write a book that you hope nobody reads. That's another, do that. They just write it so they almost like a diary or a journal where you write the book and it isn't really meant for anybody else's eyes. That's a little bit of a rare reason to actually write a book, because a journal serves that purpose. So normally when you write a book, you're getting an idea that it's going to be released and people are going to learn what it is that you said. So for me, for instance, with this memoir, there's so many intricate details to this thing that are fascinating as hell. Completely I'm like, that was me? Oh yeah, that's me. Like, it's so fascinating. And there's intimate and intricate aspects to the book that when anyone reads this book, it will 100% alter to a truer degree what they thought of me before they read the book. Like, I'm giving you an invitation to see my guts, to be with my true and honest whole person. And once that's done, then how you get to see me or deal with me. And if there's going to be pieces of you like, dude, you got arrested? Wait, dude, you dropped out twice? Wait, you have 2 kids or 4 kids? Wait, you've been all over the world? Wait, you love Israel? What? Oh, all that stuff that's in there, my brothers and my education and medical school and my experience as a doctor, and some of that stuff is going to be it's meant to tweak you. It's meant to be like, oh yeah, that's going to hit the audience hard. We just came up with one just now between Alex and I that was such an epiphany. It was a mega epiphany that put together chapter 3 with chapter 20. And like, it drew an arc that we hadn't seen when I wrote the original, but it just happened when listening to it. I'm like, oh, chapter 20 is an answer to what happened in chapter 3. And so all I did was dictate that into Claude, and now the book recognizes it. It's so good.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, some really good advice on that. I think some people can start writing some books. And I think it's a perfect transition to our third pillar, because you're talking about being radically authentic. So the final pillar is finding your truest voice. So why do so many people struggle to speak with their authentic voice?
Well, I did reference this a couple minutes ago, and indeed it is, in fact, the second book I wrote. It's called Find Your True Voice, and that can be found at findyourtruevoicebook.com, and you get it for free, just shipping and handling. So it'd be my pleasure to send that to you or to your listeners or viewers.
Okay. Absolutely.
So find your true voice. What is it? Where are you going to look? Are you going to look out there? Do you think I'm going to say look out there? No, of course not. No, you're not looking out there for your true voice. But that's what we do. You see, we look out there to become a person like the person we think is a cool person, or like we think the person who has something together. We become a person that we're not in order to protect the person that we are. Like, we actually pursue pretending to be a person that we're not because we're afraid to be the person that we are, because then maybe we'll be a disruptor, or maybe we'll be dismissed, or maybe we'll be disregarded, or maybe we'll be thrown off the island altogether. And so we're really afraid to bring that true and honest core tender underbelly forward. And that's really interesting, because if we don't do that, if we present ourselves as someone we're not, we're incapable. We can be certain that we're not going to have a partnership. We're not going to have a connection. It's sort of like having a cord and a socket. And if we don't, like, if the socket is here and we keep going over here, we're not going to be able to create a circuit. We're going to have to put the circuit together from where we really are. So by cleaning up the things that are preventing us from being who we really are, we create the appearance or the emergence of our human frequency, right? It's sort of like a tuning fork. In the mud and the wet cobwebs and the rust and the dirt and the yuck, we wash that off, and now we start getting some true and honest human frequency being expressed. And in that process, all of a sudden, me and you I'm landing on the frequency that's there for you. Even if you have a bunch of muck over your frequency, you still have a receiver, a receptor for the human frequency. So one of the things to do to find your true voice is to begin to identify and then wash away the things that we have put there to block it from being expressed normally. And we learn that very early in school, when we're 5 years old. And maybe even before, but at least it gets confirmed in school. When you're 5 and 6 years old and you go to school, and you begin to express yourself or be imaginative or, I talked a lot. Imagine that. I talked a lot when I was in elementary school. I talked a lot. I had these two brothers who taught me how to be very inquisitive. They were 10 and 14 years older than me. And so they gave me all the tools and I was precocious. I knew shit that none of my peers knew. And I just talked all the time. And the teacher, like there's no teacher who forgot having Fred as a student. No way. That didn't happen. And in elementary school, I'd say, oh yeah, all we'd have to say is my first name, and they'd say Freddie Moss. I'd be like, yep, that's it. And it wasn't sanctioned. It wasn't the open conversation, a true and honest discourse was not what school was about, right? Instead, it was sit down, be quiet, do as I say, like I say, and then we'll pass you to the next level. And if you don't, we're going to send you to the principal and get you fixed before you come back so that, in fact, you can shut up and listen because that's the purpose of school. It's not the purpose of education to tell somebody to shut up and listen. That's only a very small part of it. What's here is to experience life. And if you really want to learn life, then allow the person to be as close to themselves as possible and explore and imagine the things that they're going to explore and imagine, because that gives them the opportunity to really learn experientially. And there's no learning that's more powerful than experience. Remembering and jotting it down or remembering acronyms. Well, that's one way to get a good test score, but it doesn't translate to learning.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's finding your truest voice. So we've done the 3 pillars, Fred. I'd like to try to bring all 3 of the things we talked about today. So I've noticed a lot of people wear masks, like you said, and try to look or appear a certain way. Can you kind of walk us through where that develops or why we emulate? Why aren't we just true? Wouldn't that just be easier to be true? Can you kind of walk us through wearing masks to look a certain way?
Well, we've already touched on it, and it's a great question. Thanks for asking. But, it's we're naturally concerned that we're going to cause more damage, and it's going, with our soul exposed, that somehow being disregarded or dismissed or rejected or embarrassed or humiliated or diminished in some way would hurt more if I bring you my real self. So instead, we put on a veneer. We put on a veneer that actually protects us from having the experience of being rejected or dismissed. If we act like that kind of person, then we think we'll get that kind of respect, or that people will give us that kind of room or allow us to be who we are. If we, it's reached a point, Nate, where some of people, and me included, unfortunately, but it's also true with almost every human, actually sometimes say things that even they don't believe.
Yeah. I think we do it all the time.
Take a moment.
Isn't that crazy?
Take a moment.
Yeah, I had a guest on another one. He was talking about masks as well, and somebody would come around and say something. I forgot what the reference was. It was oh, does anyone want a drink? And you just say, yeah. And I don't even want a drink, but I'm so conditioned to say I do, that I just say, yeah, before I've even thought about it was what he was talking about. And it's interesting because I thought of situations where it's like that. You answer the question, you're like, wait, no, I don't even want that. But I just feel I have to.
Not only do I not want it, but I don't even think that which I just said. I'm not even aligned. I didn't even, it's the most ludicrous, bizarre, absurd, preposterous strategy I've ever heard, is to say something you don't mean.
But we do it all the time.
We do it all the time. And and so when you ask, boy, how did it get developed? Here's where it got developed. When we were 5, back in school, we started doing things that we really didn't, sitting down, being quiet and looking at a blackboard while a teacher teaches things that you're deeply uninterested in is not a great way to live life. It just isn't. It's not the highest quality way to live life. It's been programmed to us that you got to do that in order to advance. And you're talking to somebody who did a little bit of schooling, of course. I ultimately had 26 years in school, so I know a little bit about school. And I hated, I disrespected the whole point of school. I skipped 200 times in 11th grade. I dropped out of college twice. I didn't expect school to actually teach me that which I needed to know in order to be an effective human being. What school did is it was kind of a hurdle or an obstacle. It was a challenge to get through and most of what I learned in medical school has nothing to do with being a doctor at all. Not even a little, like not even a little, not even one iota. Because medical school doesn't teach you how to be with people. It does, that's not what happens. And being with people is so critical. Sitting in a hard chair, watching a professor with a very large accent teach something that you're not curious about or not even interested in, and not even able to understand while there's a summer day going on in the background, or beautiful day going on, or a beautiful girl over there, or a beautiful beach over there, or a beautiful activity over there. When that's happening, that is not a way to learn how to be with people, bro.
So it's not taught, it's just a little bit of programming along the way.
Well, I think the key thing here is to get that the thing that we have here, the biggest challenge and the one that is almost always sort of elusive, is this idea of learning how to be with people. This week we went to a dinner. We went to a dinner. What do you call it? Like a hosted dinner. Like a dinner like a group of people got together for dinner. And it was amazing to be with real people. Like, it was amazing that I wasn't with rectangles. It was like, oh yeah, it was really interesting. And I realized that my skills have become a little bit more watered down, or it feels a little bit more challenging to start a conversation, because now there's things that we can't talk about. Like, things that we need to talk about in order to deal with the world as it is can't be talked about because we're afraid to bring up particular topics because we might actually hurt somebody, or we might actually offend somebody, or we might actually be dismissed. So we don't even talk about the things that are taking up our time when we're not with people, which is super interesting, because there's a very serious disjoint between what we're thinking about all day long and then what we're capable of talking about when we're with another person.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, I think we need to try to keep it a little bit more real. They say you can't talk about religions and politics and things like that, but maybe we do need to, if that's what's running around
if we're
your
going to
brain
deal
all
with
day.
it, if we're going to deal with it, ever, because if we don't deal with it, I mean, I hate to say this, I say it each time I say it, and it is what I believe. If we don't deal with it with conversations with people who are diametrically opposed to what we think about things, and do so in a respectful way that can possibly move the needle forward, if we don't get to that level of evolution and maturity, bro, shit's done.
That's it.
Put a fork in it. It's over. Because
That is
that's
it.
what's required to move anything. And
Absolutely.
if we're so terrified that we can't do that, it's just a short matter of time.
That'll be about the end. Well, thank you, Frank, for coming out. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for bringing your energy, wisdom, and unique perspective back to Mindforce. Before we wrap up, where can listeners connect and follow your work?
Okay, so there's a few different places. Someone called me recently and told me that maybe one of the best sites they had ever seen was that website that I apparently have. Like, I was like, oh, that's cool. It's called whoisdrfred.com. Is a very cool website. So you can that's my speaker-based website. It's cool. I have a retreat coming up in September. And so that's the welcometohumanityretreat.com. That's exciting, calling healers together and helping people learn how to both receive and give. And most of us leaders are deeply interested in giving, and we forgot how to receive. So there's that. And I have a couple websites, but I also hang out in so Dr. Fred 360, Dr. Fred 360 is another one, also a slick site, and you can find me there and hit the contact button. You can get a discovery call with me. How can I be of help, even if it's just to connect with you? I've got my book, the welcometohumanitybook.com. That's of course front and center. Now I'm so excited about this thing. It's so good. And I hope it moves people. And it's like this whole life was lived so that I could actually get that whole thing on paper. And I feel very honored to have a life where I could write a memoir, listen to it, and be okay with it. It's like really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. And on Audible, it sounds like you get to listen to it or read it, whichever way is best for you.
Not only on Audible as read by Pro Fred. That's right.
By Fred. Well, to everyone listening, pay attention to your voice, pay attention to what feels true, and maybe pay a little more attention to the animals around you. I love you all. See ya.